You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NAX. We'll talk about what we see at stores and what the future may hold for our industry.
When we talk about the future of the industry, we talk about food service as a big part of that future. But it's also a big part of our present. And we're going to talk today about what is quite possibly the best area of the country, of the United States, to find amazing food at the gas station. Joining us on our conversation today about some of the most amazing food at gas stations you could possibly find is Stafford Shurden, who joined us on a trip to South Louisiana, and we checked out some stores. So welcome again to the podcast, Stafford.
It's good to see and hear you guys' voice again.
Thanks for joining us. So let's just dive right in. One of the things that you're known for is the video series Gas Station Tailgate Review. And we connected with you about a year ago. We've had you on a couple podcasts. And then we said, hey, let's go to Mississippi and go check out some things near where you are in Drew, Mississippi. And you said, hey, how about we go to South Louisiana, Cajun country? There's a couple places there that'll just you just really need to go there. And so we went there, and we went along with Al Hebert, the gas station gourmet who writes for NAX magazine, also has the same passion about food. And we visited 4 stores, and it was pretty amazing. So start off, just give us for those who haven't heard about Gas Station Tailgate Review, give us a sense of what that's all about.
So it kind of started out almost tongue-in-cheek because we cook a lot of the same food at our restaurant here in Drew, Mississippi that you find in gas stations. And so we were going to kind of compare like our fried chicken to other gas stations' fried chicken. And started off tongue-in-cheek and just immediately got a big following. It was kind of crazy. Within 3 weeks, I was getting calls from like national syndicated radio shows and stuff to, hey, how long have you been doing this? I'm like, 3 weeks. And they were thinking 2 years, And so it definitely hit a nerve. I mean, there's a thing in the Deep South with gas station food. And you go to a lot of these small communities, the gas station is the restaurant in the community. It is the post office in certain cases and things like that. They do a little everything. And so it definitely hit a nerve.
Yeah, I think we saw that with Corner Grocery, which was our first stop. And I hope I don't botch it. Lorville, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was our first stop. And that was great because, I mean, when we posted on Facebook that particular stop and with that group picture of us with the 2 owners there, I would say post went relatively viral on our NAX Facebook page. I have never seen so many comments and shares, and the reach was phenomenal. So, I mean, we definitely, hit on a nerve there with what you said, that particular area, the gas stations are the heart of the community because they're let's just be fair. They're more than a gas station. They're way more than a gas station.
So I learned something after us going there. That's the former Piggly Wiggly.
Is it
so
really?
They are the grocery store for that community.
Mm-hmm. Which we saw.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I'm glad you guys were doing all the taste testing and not me, because I don't know if I would have made it out of there.
Yeah, and when you talk about the taste testing, when you visit 4 stores in a day, and we visited 3 one day or 3 one day, 1 another day, but we also made some other stops. You're a professional eater all of a sudden, and one of the things we learned on this trip, in Stafford told me, it's like you can say no once and then you say yes, thank you after that. They had a lot of food set aside for us, and it's like, try this, try this, try this. And I mean, it was the kind of food that you would expect if you had a tablecloth restaurant, fancy restaurant. You could sell that food for a lot of money, and instead it's $8.95, $9.95, and there were 2 meals there. It was just all incredible stuff. So when we started this trip together, you also ran into part of the idea was there's Stafford and there's Al Hebert, and they both share a similar passion. what Chrissy and I were really surprised, or pleasantly surprised with, like, you guys were like long lost brothers. You guys just started chatting it up, and then you're talking to the folks at the store, and just everybody's just asking each other questions and wanting to know, like, how do you do this? How do you do this? It's just a cool experience to stand back and watch all this.
I think you hit upon something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and one of the things that makes this fun for me is I'm genuinely curious. Like, I want to know, how, and it's, as I've done, I've published 147 of these reviews, and I've actually been in a lot more stations than that trying to find good places. So I've become real interested in why does that business model work the way it works? Why is it that, in South Louisiana, and we were going to talk about why South Louisiana, well, it's the consistency. Everywhere you go, it's good. And then that consistency breaks off as you get out of the deep South. And like even my trips to Texas, I had there's great gas station food in Texas, but as big as that state is, I had to really look for that good food. And then you get down there and it's like, well, you remember at Votros, they were talking about the drive-through, and he's like, oh, it's going to increase business 24%. That's exactly what it did. Well, why is that not happening everywhere? Like, to me, I think about cross-pollination in business a lot. Why do they have drive-through in almost every gas station in South Louisiana, but nowhere else? You don't see that much anywhere else. You see it, but you have to search it out. So I'm genuinely curious, why does this work in one place and not another?
Yeah, and I think one of the things, I'm glad you mentioned the drive-through there, is it's a one-store operation. And somebody probably had a really good idea and decided on a slow day, let's just say a Monday or Tuesday, let's put in a window, drive-through window, and let's do this. And you can do that when it's one store and you own that store. It's a little harder when you have a chain or you're part of a brand of franchise or otherwise, but you just do it and then you see it works. And that drive-through line was doing pretty well at lunchtime.
Absolutely. I notice, I know Dodge's store, y'all have checked them out a couple of times, and they have some stores out y'all's way, but they're actually a Mississippi-based company. And they just opened a brand new store, beautiful store in Batesville, Mississippi, and it has a drive-through. And it's set up just like a Wendy's. You drive up to the order and drive through and pick it up. So I guess that stuff it does cross-pollinate to a degree, but it's so concentrated. Those ideas are so concentrated inside. Like, how many meat markets did we see? Everybody makes their own boudin. You take a meat market to do that. You have to be inspected to start making sausage. That's a much bigger deal than just frying up some chicken and throw it in a hot box.
Yeah, I figured if I were to move down to that area, I better be willing to kill it and eat it.
Well, that's part of the model at Votros. You can bring in something and they'll return it to you all dressed, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to sidebar because you mentioned Dodges, so that just brought up the fact that you and I almost crossed paths again in Savannah, Georgia. You were there for a different reason. We were on a road trip with our chairman, heading down to our HR forum in Savannah, Georgia. So we passed through. We took a little bit of a long route because I didn't want to just shoot straight down 95. So we went from Virginia to Greensboro, North Carolina. Then we went to Florence, South Carolina to go to Buc-ee's. And then we shot down to Charleston, hung out with some members there, and then made our way over to Savannah. Are we going to get a gas station tailgate review out of your trip?
So I did some research. I didn't actually film any because it was technically family vacation, so I didn't want to take much from family vacation. But yeah, so we stopped at Parker's Kitchen and places like that, and I had my stuff. If it arose where I could film, I would have. But it was more family vacation than anything. But we did. I'll be back for sure.
All right, good.
So you knew how to read the room, and you know what that looked like. That says no, you're not doing that right now, right?
We were only there for 2 or 3 days, and I did this in Texas. We did the same thing, but we did have time to stop. We had a full week when we were in Texas the last time. So I did kind of combine business with pleasure. But this time it was like a little too quick of a trip. We had a big drive ahead of us. So yeah, I didn't do it this time. But I did market research, you can call it.
Well, I'm sure you came across a lot of fried chicken.
I think fried chicken is so ubiquitous with Southern gas stations. It's just everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely felt the battle of the chicken wars when we were leaving Virginia, heading down south.
Well, there's so many brands now for, we always thought of Crispy Crunchy and a couple of others, but it's like so many different brands you see in multiple gas stations now that weren't there even 5 years ago, I don't think. Am I crazy, or is it just really blown up?
I think it's really blown up. I think people, we might be able to credit Popeyes a little bit for the amazing chicken sandwich that even the CEO couldn't get a hold of when it first came out. I mean, but it, that type, that was the type of offer, I believe, that went viral on social. And
it's always been chicken FOMO, here. Oh, for sure.
You create here's this amazing chicken sandwich, and then it just created this like onslaught of chicken wars. It's probably the bad word to use with chicken, but whatever.
In the Mid-South in Mississippi here, I think chicken has always been really popular for a couple of reasons. But one, it was cheap. I mean, for sure, it's a cheap thing to do. You can cook it in the morning, and we're still an ag-based community here in Mississippi. So you go to any gas station in the morning, their chicken's cooked in the morning, not at lunch. And the reason is you got a guy going to get on a tractor. He buys his coffee, his ice for his cooler, his Cokes, and then he buys chicken, and it holds really well. And room temperature chicken's pretty good. So that's a meal that's not very expensive that holds really well. And everybody in Mississippi loves fried. We have a rule: we cannot open on Sunday at my restaurant if we don't have fried chicken. I mean, it's like it's just one of those things you have to have is fried chicken. And just about any gas station in the South has better chicken than Popeyes, quite frankly. Just about any.
There you go.
Yeah. Now, one of the other things you had mentioned about why doesn't everybody have drive-thrus, in a lot of areas of the country, the focus is grab and go. If it can fit in a cup, it can fit in a cup holder. What can you eat on the road? What we experienced in Cajun country and in other places is some of these things are really difficult to eat while you're driving. We have blue plate meals, and then we go to this other place, Yabo's, where we talked about drive-through. This is literally a drive-through where you drive through the restaurant, like some of those beer places.
The drive-in convenience
yes.
store.
And would we get a 5-pound tray of crawfish?
Yeah. We did. That would be
really hard to eat while driving.
Those
but
suckers were big too.
Yeah, but it was really easy to eat. Right, using your recording studio, the flatbed of that truck, and those have to be. I think those were the best crawfish I've ever had.
They were top.
Jeff, hold on, time out. Those were the only crawfish.
No, that's not true.
Had.
That's not true. I've had them.
Well, I've eaten. Let me just say, times. Chrissy, I've eaten a lot of crawfish. They were pretty doggone good. They were top 4 or 5 for real. They were really good.
What's the difference? It's how do you change the culture, or is the culture different where those stores, people are just going to hang out. They're going to eat there or eat in their car as opposed to blasting down the road at 40 or 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, I think they do have, they have grab and go kind of food there in South Louisiana as well. You think about the boudin balls and stuff like that. And everybody, I don't care where you go in America, everybody's in a hurry. They're looking for less friction. You and I talked about how do you decommoditize the commodity. And in South Louisiana, they do that. Everybody's got boudin, but everybody boudin's a little different. Where a bag of Doritos in Dollar General and a bag of Doritos in Walmart and a bag of Doritos in a C-store, it's all the same bag of Doritos. So you're trying to remove the friction is the way I look at it. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a business person, and I'm thinking, how do you remove friction? Because we're always doing that here at the restaurant. We've got an app where you can go on and download and then order and drive right through our back door, and we just walk out and hand it to you. Because we're always thinking about, if we don't, somebody down the street is going to be doing that. So people are looking for less friction everywhere.
Yeah, Stafford, so you have a restaurant, and you deal with a lot of the same issues that convenience stores deal with because they're essentially restaurants as well. The jobs have gotten very complex, and a lot of things going on, a lot of things to take care of. What are you looking at in your restaurant, and how do you simplify things so that people are able to do what they do best, which is that human element, and it's not, all these other things that increasingly get complex in the business?
Well, I've learned a lot of lessons. I've never had a real job. I've always employed people. So I've been doing this a long time, and I'm just now kind of figuring out the hire slow, fire fast thing. So if somebody doesn't fit, first of all, somebody doesn't fit in our team, we get rid of them really quickly now. And, we've just learned over the years, you can hire somebody who's really, really good at maybe frying that chicken that we're talking about. But if they don't get along with the rest of the team, we get rid of them. The other thing is, even in a small restaurant like us, we have menus, we have standard operating procedures, we have recipes that everybody follows. And, there's a recipe for everything, not just for food. And so everybody knows exactly what it is they're supposed to be doing. So I remember telling my dad when I was a little kid, boy, we sure are lucky to have all these great employees. And my dad said, son, luck has nothing to do with it. We treat people well and we pay them a living wage, and then they in turn take care of us,
And one bad person can chase a whole lot of good people away if you don't, take care of problems.
One thing I try to do is have a really open dialogue. So if sometimes, and a lot of C-store owners are probably just like me, I'm not here that much. I run about 3 different businesses, so I'm very seldom at the restaurant. So when there is a bad thing going on, if I don't have that open communication where somebody feels comfortable coming to me and telling me about it, then the problem grows big before I know what's going on. And so thank goodness the staff, we have this huge group text. We're always texting back and forth. We're always having a great time. But when it comes down to business, they know when it's time to work, and everybody gets along really well. It's a lot of fun to be here, actually.
You had mentioned you're not there, all the time, and
right.
Sometimes it's for really, incredible, positive reasons. And one of those was recently there was the horrible tornado in Rolling Fork, Mississippi. It was about an hour and a half from your house, and you went down there and were cooking for the people there that really needed a lot of help and still do. Can you describe that experience?
It was like walking into a war zone. Like on a podcast, I cannot describe the destruction, because there's literally a path. You can see the path, and there's nothing. I mean, literally nothing. So you think about the houses that were left, they don't have running water because one of the water towers fell. You think about all the houses that are gone, they can't find the cutoff to turn the water off these houses. So when they do turn the water on, the water's coming up through these slabs or old foundations. And thank goodness, one of the things that I've always been proud about being from Mississippi is if you look at tax returns, Mississippi is the most generous state in the nation, has been for about 50 years. We donate more money to charity as a percentage of our income than anybody. And that was 100% on display. It was so many people. This was the day after the storm when I went. So many people there just showing up with chainsaws and starting, because you couldn't even get down the roads. I mean, the highway patrol had to direct us to the church we were setting up at to cook hamburgers. And so many people were there working. So many people are still there working. And I do worry about places like that. We always think of these storms coming through, and it's kind of like after a loved one dies, everybody brings you a casserole the day after. And then 2 weeks later, nobody even calls you, So I worry about these places long term, because it's not just, we just had Little Rock just had a bad tornado, and they had some up in Kansas. We've had several bad storms. There was a tornado last night, I think. Some bad storms just came through Mississippi. But these places they're going to need extended help. So be looking out for ways to help these places 2 and 3 weeks after the tornado hits. I think that's one of the things I think about a lot, because it's just like, it's unexplainable. Their C-store's gone. They have one restaurant gone, completely gone. In fact, I met one of the women that survived that. They were open. So their restaurant was open when this tornado hit. And we met Miss Pinky is her name, and she cooks all the hamburgers. And Miss Pinky said they all got in the freezer, and the only thing left standing was a freezer. It's pretty crazy. Like, that freezer saved their life.
Well, those are the kind of stories that you hear a lot in our industry. And they just bear repeating about the kindness of people and how people look out for each other. And with convenience stores, it's often said, they're the last to close, first to open after any sort of disaster, hurricanes, etc. And it's just people pitching in and doing what they can to keep the community going, because that's what we're all part of.
Absolutely. It's most of these C-stores that I love are the ones that are the community center. You go to these little small towns in whether South Louisiana or Alabama or Mississippi or Florida. It's the small 2,000 person towns where, like we started off with, they're the restaurant, they're the gas station, they're the grocery store. That's where people get their milk and bread. And and you're right, when everybody else is closed, who's open? We're going to close our restaurant on Easter. And I've already thought about this before I came on. Nine chances out of 10, I'm probably going to stop at a gas station and walk in and buy something out of a convenience store on Easter. We're always asking those people to be there. And I hope that, I hope your audience, I know what your audience is, and I hope they know it is appreciated.
Great message to share. And just finally, when we were talking, one of the things that just blew us away is you had mentioned about how popular the video series is, the Gas Station Tailgate Review, and you're approaching like 1 million views on some of these episodes. Just that's I guess essentially viral, if you will. Where can people find out more on Gas Station Tailgate Review? What are the various places that they can find this, and what do they need to search?
So the easiest way to find me is to search Stafford Shurden on Google, or any social media that you like, that you use, kind of by age group almost now. The younger people are using TikTok, and my generation and your generation, Jeff, we're all on Facebook pretty much.
I'm on MySpace, man.
Well, I never did the MySpace thing. I actually never had a MySpace page, but yeah, you can, whatever social media you're on, you can pretty much just put my name in the search bar, Stafford Shurden, and you'll find it. YouTube, wherever. But the easiest thing is just to Google me. And then, it's crazy because now there's newspaper articles and all this other stuff.
You should write a book, Stafford.
It's you may be more right than you know. That's already I'm already talking to some folks about writing a book, so that's probably going to have like a coffee table travel guide kind of a thing.
There you go.
Well, if you want to have, first off, check out the videos. They're really well done. They're fun. And it's just time well spent. And I'm sure Stafford would love to hear from you also if there's a place that he should be visiting, because he's always on the lookout for places. So, Stafford, thanks again for joining us. It was great to spend time with you and Al visiting stores. We hope to reunite you both at the NAC show and talk more about experiences visiting gas stations, convenience stores, and just talking about communities and what we all mean together. So thanks for joining us today.
Hey, it was a lot of fun, and NACS is in Atlanta this year, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my neck of the woods.
Truck,
absolutely.
Bring that truck and use that for some reviews.
Absolutely, I will.
Well,
enjoy it.
Thanks again. And thank you all for listening to Convenience Matters.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.